Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the massive window of the Luna Command Station. She watched Earth turn slowly below them. The blue planet looked peaceful from up here, but peace was about to end. "Admiral, they're coming," said Lieutenant Brooks. His voice shook a little. Sarah could not blame him. Today would change everything. Sarah turned to face the main screen. Space around Earth looked empty and dark. Then it happened. The stars began to bend and twist. Reality itself seemed to break apart like glass. A hole opened in space, bigger than anything humans had ever seen. The first ship came through. It was the size of a small moon, covered in metal that seemed to shift colors. Then came another, and another. 12 ships in total, each one different, but all clearly made by hands that were not human. The Galactic Consortium had arrived. "Sir, they're sending a message," said Communications Officer Martinez. Her hands moved quickly over her controls. "It's on all frequencies. They want to speak with our leaders." Sarah nodded. She had been expecting this day for months. Earth scouts had reported strange activities in nearby star systems, ships watching them from far away. Now those watchers had come to call. "Put them through," Sarah said. She stood straight and tried to look calm. Inside, her heart was beating fast. The screen filled with light. When it cleared, Sarah found herself looking at beings that were clearly not human. The main figure stood tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like blue metal. Its eyes were large and dark, like deep pools of water. Behind it stood 11 other creatures, each one a different species. "I am High Counselor Zexthai of the Galactic Consortium," the being spoke. Its voice came through the translators as cold and formal. "You are the species called humans, from the planet you name Earth." "I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Council," Sarah replied. "Welcome to our system." The alien's mouth moved in what might have been a smile, but it did not look friendly. "We do not come as guests, Admiral Chun. We come as judges." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. "Judges of what?" "Your species has spread to 17 worlds in the past 50 years, Zexthai continued. "You have built weapons of great power. You have claimed territories that belong to others by ancient law. The Consortium has watched your kind for some time. We have decided that humanity grows too fast and too dangerous. We have the right to explore space," Sarah said. "We have hurt no one, right?" The alien seemed amused. "Young species often speak of rights, but the galaxy has rules that are older than your world. Your expansion threatens the stability we have maintained for 10,000 years. Behind Zexthai, the other aliens nodded. Sarah counted 12 different species, each one clearly more advanced than humanity. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. "What do you want?" Sarah asked, though she feared the answer. "We offer you a choice," Zexthai said. "Submit to Consortium rule, and we will allow your species to survive under our guidance. Or face the consequences of your defiance." Sarah looked around the command center. Her officers stared at the screen with fear and anger in their eyes. She thought of the 6 billion people on Earth below. She thought of the colonies on Mars, Europa, and the other worlds humans had worked so hard to build. "And if we refuse both options?" Sarah asked. The alien's expression did not change. "Then we will use the stasis protocol." "What is that?" Zexthai gestured with one of his 4 hands. The screen changed to show a device that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. It was huge, maybe the size of a city, and it looked like it was made of crystal and light. The object pulsed with energy that hurt to look at. "This is a quantum field generator," the alien explained. "When activated near your world, it will freeze your technological development for 500 years. Your computers will stop working. Your machines will fail. Your people will be forced back to the level of development you had centuries ago. During this time, the consortium will debate your fate. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's top scientist, stepped forward. Sarah had asked him to be present for this meeting. His face was pale as he studied the device on the screen. "That's impossible," Webb whispered. "The energy required alone would be more than our sun produces in a year. For you, perhaps," Zexthai replied. "For us, it is a simple tool. We have used it 47 times in the past 10 millennia. It has never failed." Sarah felt cold fear. In her stomach, this was not a bluff. The aliens had the power to do exactly what they claimed. "You have 72 hours to decide," Zexthai continued. "Submit to consortium rule or face the stasis protocol. Choose wisely, Admiral Chun. This is the only offer you will receive." The transmission ended. The command center fell silent. Sarah stared at the empty screen, her mind racing. Around her, she could hear the quiet sounds of her officers trying to process what they had just heard. "Sir," Lieutenant Brooks said quietly, "what do we do?" Sarah looked out the window again. Earth continued to turn, beautiful and unaware of the threat hanging over it. In 72 hours, everything could change. Humanity could lose 500 years of progress in an instant. But as she stood there, Sarah Chun began to smile. It was a small smile, but it was real. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought they knew humans. They thought humanity would react like all the other species they had conquered. They expected fear, panic, and desperate attempts to negotiate. They did not know that humans had a saying, "The difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer." "Brooks," Sarah said, turning back to her crew, "get me President Martinez on Earth. Then connect me with every colony, every ship, every human base in known space." "Yes, sir. What should I tell them?" Sarah's smile grew wider. "Tell them we have a problem to solve. And tell them we have 72 hours to do it." As her communications officer worked, Sarah looked back at the space where the alien ships waited. They thought their technology made them gods. They thought their ancient laws gave them the right to decide humanity's fate. They were about to learn that humans did not wait for permission to survive. The next 72 hours would change the galaxy forever. Sarah Chun could feel it in her bones. The aliens wanted to judge humanity? Fine. Let them see what humans could do when they were pushed into a corner. The countdown had begun. The stasis protocol activated exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum. High Counselor Zexthai watched from his command ship as the massive crystal device came to life. Energy waves spread out from the generator like ripples in a pond. When they reached Earth, the planet's entire electromagnetic field began to change. On Earth, the effects were immediate. Computer screens went dark. Satellites fell silent. The global internet died in seconds. Power grids failed one by one as quantum processors could no longer function. Advanced manufacturing plants ground to a halt. The modern world that humanity had built over centuries simply stopped working. "Perfect execution," reported Science Counselor Vexhai. She studied the readings on her instruments. All quantum-based technology on the planet has been neutralized. Their development level has been reduced to approximately their year, 1900. Zexthai nodded with satisfaction. "As expected, begin the standard monitoring protocol. We will observe them for the first few years to ensure compliance, then return to our deliberations." The consortium had done this many times before. They knew what would happen next. The humans would panic for a few weeks. Their leaders would try desperately to contact the consortium, begging for mercy. Eventually, they would accept their fate and settle into a primitive but stable existence. It always happened the same way, but High Counselor Zexthai had never met humans before. On Earth, President Maria Martinez stood in the emergency bunker beneath Denver. The lights came from old-fashioned bulbs powered by diesel generators. The communication systems were simple radio sets that barely worked. Everything advanced had simply died. "Report," she said to General Harrison, the head of Earth's military forces. "All major cities are without power," Harrison replied, reading from a paper notepad. "Quantum computers are completely dead. Satellites are falling out of orbit. Transportation systems have collapsed. But people are not panicking as much as we expected. Why not?" General Harrison almost smiled. "Because Admiral Chun got her message out before the field hit. Every human settlement in space knows what happened. And they know what we need to do." 3 days earlier, Admiral Chun had sent a single message to every human colony, ship, and outpost. It was simple. If the lights go out, start building. We do not wait for anyone's permission to survive. On Mars, Colony Director James Kim stood in the old hydroponics bay. The advanced growing systems had failed, but the colonists were already setting up simpler methods. They used pipes and pumps that worked without computers. Seeds still grew. Water still flowed. "How long can we last?" asked his assistant, Dr. Sarah Park. "Forever, if we do this right," Kim replied. "The aliens stopped our advanced technology. They did not stop our knowledge." He was right. The stasis protocol could break machines, but it could not erase human memory. Every human who had studied engineering still knew how things worked. Every scientist still understood the laws of physics. Every skilled worker still had their hands and their experience. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They thought that stopping advanced technology would stop human progress. They did not understand that humans had reached space the first time, with machines much simpler than what the colonists were now building. On Europa Station, engineer Maria Santos looked at the dead quantum processor that had controlled their ice mining operation. She smiled and walked to the supply room. 20 minutes later, she emerged with an old mechanical drill press that had been stored as backup equipment. "If it worked for our great-grandfathers," she told her team, "it will work for us." Back on Earth, something strange was happening. Instead of despair, there was energy in the air. In garages and basements across the planet, people were building things. Not trying to recreate the lost technology, but making new versions of old ideas. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been working on quantum materials before the field hit. Now she stood in a workshop that looked like it belonged in the LC 1800s. She used hammers and furnaces to work with metal, but the metal she was making was still based on advanced science. The aliens could stop her computers, but they could not stop her brain. "The field only affects quantum processes," she explained to her team. "It cannot touch mechanical systems or chemical reactions. We can still make everything we need. We just have to do it the old way." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Japan, engineers built mechanical computers using gears and levers, but designed with knowledge gained from decades of digital advancement. In Germany, craftsmen forged steel using techniques that combined medieval methods with modern metallurgy knowledge. In Brazil, farmers created irrigation systems that used gravity and pressure, but were designed with perfect understanding of fluid dynamics. The consortium watched all of this with amusement. Their long-range sensors showed exactly what they expected: energy usage dropping, electronic communications ending, and what looked like a return to primitive technology. "They are adapting better than most species," observed Vexhai. "But adaptation to primitivism is still primitivism. They will never threaten the galaxy with steam engines and mechanical devices." Zexthai agreed. "Increase the monitoring interval to once per year. There is no need to waste resources watching a regressed civilization." This was their second mistake. What the aliens could not see from space was the sophistication of what humans were building. Their sensors detected steam power, but could not analyze the precision of the mechanical computers being built in underground factories. They saw chemical reactions, but did not understand that humans were creating new materials with properties that rivaled alien technology. In hidden workshops around the world, Project Bootstrap took shape. It was not a government program or a military operation. It was something much more dangerous. It was millions of humans working together with a common goal. The goal was simple: rebuild everything, but better. Dr. Marcus Webb, the physicist who had witnessed the alien ultimatum, now worked in a laboratory that looked medieval but thought in quantum terms. He could not build quantum computers, but he could build mechanical systems that solved the same problems. They were larger and slower, but they worked. The aliens think in terms of advancement, he explained to his research team. More advanced always means more complex to them. They cannot imagine that simpler might actually be better for some purposes. In the mountains of Colorado, teams of engineers were building something that would have amazed their ancestors. It was a manufacturing plant powered by water wheels and steam engines. But every gear, every lever, and every mechanism was designed with mathematical precision that the aliens' own factories could barely match. The plant could build tools, and those tools could build other tools, and those tools could build weapons. Aliens had given humanity 500 years to think about their fate, but humans were not planning to wait 500 years. They were not even planning to wait 5 years. As the months passed, the consortium's yearly reports showed exactly what they expected. Energy signatures remained low. No quantum technology emissions were detected. The planet appeared to be adapting to pre-industrial life, but deep beneath the surface, in hidden caverns and abandoned mines, humanity was building a war machine. It ran on steam and clockwork, operated by levers and gears. It was powered by coal and oil and the burning determination of 6 billion people who refused to accept that their time was over. The aliens thought they had put humanity in a cage. They did not realize they had only given humans a reason to build a better lockpick. The countdown continued, but now it was humanity keeping track of time, and the number they were counting toward was not 500 years. It was the day they would show the consortium what humans did when someone tried to steal their future. 2 years had passed since the lights went out. In the hidden factory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Vasquez watched her greatest creation come to life. It was a computer, but not like any computer that had existed before. It was the size of a warehouse, made of brass gears and steel wheels. Steam pipes fed it power. Mechanical arms moved like dancers as they calculated. "Status report," Elena called out. "All systems running perfectly," replied her assistant, Tom Bradley. He cranked a large wheel to input new data. "The navigation computer is processing the orbital mechanics for the outer colonies. Results should be ready in 6 hours. 6 hours. Before the stasis protocol, the same calculation would have taken nanoseconds on a quantum computer. But this machine would keep working no matter what the aliens did. And 6 hours was still fast enough to coordinate a fleet." Helena smiled as she watched the mechanical brain think. The aliens had taken away humanity's quantum technology, but they had forgotten that humans had reached the stars before quantum computers ever existed. Now humanity was doing it again, but with 200 years of additional knowledge. Across the planet, Project Bootstrap had grown beyond anyone's expectations. It was not one project anymore. It was thousands of separate efforts, all working toward the same goal. In abandoned subway tunnels, teams built weapons using chemical explosives and mechanical timing systems. In old mining shafts, workers forged armor that could stop energy weapons, but weighed no more than ancient chainmail. James Morrison had been a history professor before the protocol activated. Now he was something else entirely. Humanity's master. Strategist. He worked from a command center that looked like it belonged in World War II, with paper maps and telephone lines. But the strategy he was developing was more sophisticated than anything in human history. The key, he explained to his staff, is that they think they know us. Every species they have ever conquered reacted the same way. Panic, then acceptance, then slow adaptation. They expect us to follow the pattern. Morrison pointed to a large map of the solar system. Red pins marked known alien positions. Blue pins showed human assets. The blue pins were increasing every day. But we are not like the other species, Morrison continued. We adapt faster. We fight harder. And most importantly, we do not accept that something is impossible just because someone tells us it is. The evidence was everywhere. On Mars, the colonists had built a manufacturing base that produced more goods than before the protocol, using nothing but steam power and mechanical precision. On Europa, the ice miners had created a shipyard that turned out vessels faster than any quantum-controlled factory. The ships were strange-looking things. They burned chemical fuel and used mechanical computers for navigation. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. To alien sensors, they looked primitive and harmless. That was exactly what humans wanted. "Sir, we have a message from Admiral Chun," reported communications specialist Lisa Wong. She handed Morrison a paper message that had traveled from Luna Command through a network of radio. Operators. Morrison read the message and smiled. "She says the lunar facilities are ready. The mass driver is complete and operational." The mass driver was humanity's crown jewel. Built into a crater on the far side of the moon, it was a railgun 5 kilometers long. It used electromagnetic force to launch projectiles at incredible speeds. But instead of quantum processors to control it, it used mechanical computers and human operators. The aliens could not detect it because their sensors were looking for quantum signatures. The mass driver was as invisible to them as a wooden boat would be to radar. "How many projectiles do we have ready?" Morrison asked. 47,000, Wang replied. "Each one designed to hit targets in Earth orbit with pinpoint accuracy." Morrison nodded. The projectiles were simple chunks of metal, but they did not need to be complex. When something hits at orbital velocity, it does not matter what it is made of. Physics takes care of the rest, but weapons were only part of the plan. The real genius of Project Bootstrap was not in what it built, but in how it thought. Human. Engineers had studied every piece of alien technology they could observe. They had identified patterns and weaknesses that the aliens themselves did not realize they had. Dr. Marcus Webb had made the most important discovery. In his laboratory that mixed steam power with advanced physics, he had found something remarkable about the alien quantum systems. "They are too perfect," he explained to a gathering of human scientists. "Their technology is so advanced that it has no backup systems. When their quantum processors work, they work perfectly. But if something goes wrong, everything fails at once." "What kind of something?" asked Dr. Vasquez. Webb smiled. "Something they have never encountered before. Their systems are designed to handle other quantum technology. They have defenses against energy weapons and cyber attacks, but they have no protection against pure kinetic force delivered by mechanical systems." This was the foundation of humanity's strategy. The aliens were like generals who had prepared for every possible modern battle, but had forgotten that someone might attack them with swords and arrows. In the shipyards of Europa, Admiral Sarah Chun stood before her fleet. 27 vessels floated in the frozen harbor, each one a masterpiece of retro engineering. They looked like something from humanity's past, but they were built with knowledge from humanity's future. "Report," she said to Captain Rodriguez, her new fleet commander. "All ships ready for combat," Rodriguez replied. "Fuel reserves at maximum. Kinetic weapons loaded and tested. Mechanical guidance systems calibrated. We can launch on your order." Chun looked out at the fleet she had built. Each ship was powered by fusion engines that used simple magnetic containment instead of quantum field manipulation. Their computers were mechanical marvels that could calculate orbital mechanics with gear trains and slide rules. Their weapons were railguns and missile systems that worked on principles older than spaceflight itself. The aliens thought they had crippled humanity by taking away their advanced technology. Instead, they had forced humans to become something much more dangerous. A species that could fight a modern war with medieval tools. "Captain Rodriguez," Chun said, "send word to Earth. Tell them the fleet is ready." "Yes, Admiral. What should the message say?" Chun looked up at the stars, where alien ships waited in comfortable ignorance. "Tell them it is time to show the galaxy what happens when someone underestimates humanity." The message traveled through the solar system using relay stations and radio operators. It reached every human colony, every hidden base, every workshop where people had spent 2 years building the impossible. The response was immediate. From Earth came confirmation that the mass drivers were ready. From Mars came word that the manufacturing plants could supply whatever was needed. From the asteroid belt came reports of mining operations that had been secretly building kinetic bombardment systems. Humanity was ready for war. But this would not be like any war the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens expected energy weapons and cyber warfare. They would get projectiles moving at relativistic speeds, launched by machines that computed trajectories with brass gears and steel wheels. The countdown was almost over. Soon, the Galactic Consortium would learn that the most dangerous technology in the universe was not the most advanced dot. It was the most determined dot, and humanity had always been very, very determined. Science Counselor Vex High stared at her instruments in confusion. The readings from Earth's solar system made no sense. According to her sensors, energy signatures were spiking across multiple planets. But that was impossible. The stasis protocol was still active. She could see it working perfectly. "Run the diagnostics again," she ordered her technician. "I have run them 4 times, Counselor," the technician replied. "The readings are consistent. Something is generating massive amounts of energy throughout the human system." Vexhai frowned. In her 300 years of using the stasis protocol, nothing like this had ever happened. The device had never failed. It could not fail. The quantum field it generated made advanced technology impossible within its range. "Inform High Counselor Zex Thai," she said. "We need to investigate." 3 hours later, a consortium survey fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 5 ships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet. They expected to find a confused primitive civilization that had somehow caused a sensor malfunction. What they found instead made them question everything they thought they knew about the universe. "Commander." Vex High stood on the bridge of the lead survey ship, staring at the tactical display. The solar system was full of ships, hundreds of them, moving in organized formations between the planets. But these ships were impossible. They showed no quantum signatures, no energy weapon arrays, no advanced shielding systems. "What are those things?" asked his navigation officer. "I do not know," Vexhai replied. His voice was tight with confusion. "They appear to be spacecraft, but they are using primitive propulsion. Chemical rockets and fusion engines with magnetic containment. It is like seeing stone tools in the hands of a starfaring race." "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," reported his communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. Admiral Sarah Chun appeared, looking older than she had 3 years ago, but her eyes were bright with determination. Behind her, Vex High could see what looked like a command center from an ancient war movie. Paper charts covered the walls. Officers spoke into primitive radio equipment. "Commander Vex High," Chun said with a smile that did not reach her eyes, "welcome back to our solar system." "Admiral Chun," Vex High replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We have detected unusual energy readings from your worlds. We have come to investigate." "Unusual?" Chun laughed. "I suppose they would seem unusual to you. After all, you probably have not seen technology like ours in quite some time." Vex High felt a chill run down his spine. "Technology? Admiral, your world is under the stasis protocol. Advanced technology is impossible." "You are right," Chun agreed. "Advanced technology is impossible. So we built something else instead." Before Vex High could respond, his tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, I am detecting multiple objects approaching our position. They appear to be missiles, but they are moving at impossible speeds." Vex High looked at his display. Dozens of objects were racing toward his fleet from the direction of Luna. The computer calculated their velocity, and he felt his blood turn cold. They were moving at 20% the speed of light. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Activate defense systems." But the consortium ships had a problem. Their defense systems were designed to stop energy weapons and quantum torpedoes. They had sensors that could track the most sophisticated missiles ever built. What they could not handle were simple chunks of metal traveling at relativistic speeds. Launched by a 5-kilometer-long railgun that calculated targeting solutions with mechanical computers, about the first projectile hit Vixel's ship in the engine section. At that velocity, it did not matter that it was just refined iron. The impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. The ship's rear section simply disappeared in a flash of light and debris. Hull breach. "We have lost main engines," his damage control officer reported. "How is this possible?" Vex High demanded. "Our sensors showed no weapon systems." "Sir," his science officer said, his voice shaking, "I believe they are using kinetic weapons. Pure momentum transfer. Our quantum shields are useless against solid matter at those speeds." On the screen, Admiral Chun watched the damage to the alien ship with satisfaction. "You wanted to know about our unusual energy readings, Commander? Let me explain. We have spent the last 3 years building the largest manufacturing base in human history. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid in this system is now a weapons factory. But the stasis protocol, Vex High began, stops quantum technology," Chun interrupted. "It does not stop steam engines. It does not stop mechanical computers. It does not stop humans who are angry about someone trying to steal their future." As if to prove her point, more projectiles streaked past the alien fleet. These ones were not aimed to kill, but to demonstrate. They carved through space where the ships would have been if they had tried to advance. "We have turned our entire solar system into a fortress," Chun continued. "Mars manufactures ammunition. Europa builds ships. The asteroid belt launches kinetic bombardments. And Earth builds the weapons that will carry this war to your worlds." Vex High tried to understand what he was seeing. How could a species that had been reduced to primitive technology pose any threat to the consortium? But the evidence was in front of him. His flagship was crippled. His fleet was helpless against weapons that should not even exist. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You know what I have learned about impossible?" Chun asked. "It is just another word for something you have not figured out how to do yet. And humans are very good at figuring things out." Suddenly, Vex High's sensors detected new contacts. More ships were approaching, but these were different, larger. They moved with the slow, steady power of vessels designed for long voyages and heavy combat. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, I count 47 new vessels approaching from multiple vectors. They appear to be heavily armed. Chun's smile grew wider. Meet the Earth Defense Fleet, Commander. Every ship built in the last 3 years. Every weapon designed by humans who had 3 years to think about what we would do to anyone who threatened our species. The approaching ships were incredible to look at. They were huge, bristling with weapons that had no place on any modern battlefield. Railguns and missile tubes, chemical laser arrays, and kinetic bombardment systems. They looked like something from humanity's past, but they moved with precision that spoke of advanced engineering. We gave you a fair warning 3 years ago. Chun said, we told you we would not wait. Did you think we were bluffing? Vexhai realized with growing horror that his fleet was completely outmatched. 5 ships designed to fight advanced civilizations, facing an enemy that had solved the problem of modern warfare by refusing to fight it with modern weapons. What do you want? He asked. What do we want? Chun repeated. We want you to go back to your consortium and give them a message. Tell them that humanity does not accept their judgment. Tell them that we do not recognize their authority. And tell them that if they want to finish what they started, they are welcome to try. You cannot win a war against the entire consortium, Vexhai protested. We have thousands of ships, hundreds of worlds, and every single one of them depends on technology that we now know how to defeat, Xiang replied. You see, Commander, you made a mistake when you forced us to rebuild our civilization. You taught us that we do not need advanced technology to accomplish advanced goals. You taught us that simple solutions can defeat complex problems. Chun leaned forward, and Vexhai could see the fire in her eyes. Most importantly, she said, you taught us that the galaxy is full of species who have forgotten how to fight without their computers and energy weapons. Thank you for the lesson. Now get out of our solar system before we decide to give you a more permanent demonstration of what we have learned. Vexhai looked around his damaged bridge. His fleet was crippled and outgunned by weapons that should not have been able to scratch their shields. The impossible had become reality. Retreat, he ordered quietly. All ships retreat to hyperspace. As the consortium fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Chun turned to her communications officer. Send word to all fleets, she said. Phase 2 begins now. It is time to take this war to them. The awakening was complete. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone tried to cage humanity. The emergency session of the Galactic Consortium Council was unlike anything in their 10,000-year history. 12 species sat around the great crystal table, each one trying to understand reports that seemed impossible. The humans, the primitive species they had put under the stasis protocol, were winning a war against them. High. Counselor Zexthai stood before the assembly, his forearms gesturing at the holographic displays that showed the extent of human expansion. Red markers indicated consortium worlds under attack. Blue markers showed human fleets. There were far too many blue markers. In 6 months, Zexthai announced, the humans have captured or destroyed 47 consortium vessels. They have attacked installations in 8 star systems. They have caused more damage to our civilization than any enemy in recorded history. How is this possible? Demanded Counselor Vexner of the Regelian Empire. They are using primitive technology. Stone Age weapons against quantum battleships. That is exactly the problem, replied Science Counselor Vexhai. Her voice was tired from months of trying to explain the impossible. Their weapons are so primitive that our defenses cannot stop them. Our quantum shields pass kinetic projectiles like they are not there. Our energy weapon targeting systems cannot lock onto ships with no electronic signatures. She activated a recording from the latest battle. The consortium fleet appeared on screen, sleek and beautiful, with their energy weapons blazing. Facing them were the human ships, crude and industrial-looking, belching steam and chemical exhaust. "Watch what happens when they fire," Vexai said. The human ships launched what looked like simple missiles. But these missiles moved at speeds that should have been impossible for chemical propulsion. They struck the consortium vessels and punched straight through shields that could stop planet-killing energy beams. "Their weapons work on pure momentum transfer," Vexai explained. "They accelerate projectiles to relativistic speeds using electromagnetic systems that our sensors cannot even detect. When a piece of iron hits your ship at 20% light speed, it does not matter how advanced your shields are." "Surely we can adapt," said Counselor Vthai of the Centauri Federation. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy." "That is the problem," Zexthai replied grimly. "We have spent 10,000 years perfecting quantum technology. Our entire civilization depends on it. We cannot simply abandon it and start over." But the humans never stopped understanding the basics. The truth was worse than anyone wanted to admit. Humanity had not just adapted to the loss of their advanced technology. They had turned it into an advantage. While the consortium had forgotten how to build anything without quantum computers, humans still remembered how to work with their hands. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the human battleship Determination. Around her, officers worked at control stations that looked like they belonged in a museum. But the ship they controlled was one of the most dangerous vessels in the galaxy. "Target acquired," reported Weapons Officer Chun. He cranked a large wheel to adjust the aim of their main railgun. "Consortium heavy cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. Fire when ready," Santos ordered. The ship shuddered as the rail gun launched its projectile. On the screen, they watched the consortium vessel try to evade. Its energy shields flared as the commanders realized the danger. But at the speeds involved, evasion was impossible. The projectile struck home, and the alien ship broke apart in a flash of light. "Target destroyed," Chun reported. "Reloading now." Reloading process took 30 seconds using mechanical systems and human muscle. A quantum-controlled system could have fired again in nanoseconds. But 30 seconds was fast enough when the enemy could not fire back. Santos smiled as she watched. More human ships close in on the remaining consortium vessels. This was the 5th Fleet engagement in 2 weeks. The pattern was always the same. The aliens would appear with overwhelming technological superiority. The humans would destroy them with weapons the aliens could not defend against. "Ma'am, we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Chun," reported her communications officer. "Put her through." Admiral Chun's face appeared on the mechanical display screen. She was broadcasting from her flagship somewhere in the Rigel system, leading the largest human offensive yet. "Captain Santos," Chun said, "I need you to take your battle group to the Vega system. Intelligence reports show a major consortium base there." "Understood, Admiral. What is our objective?" Chun's expression was hard as steel. "Total destruction. No survivors." It is time the consortium understood that when you threaten humanity's children, you pay the full price. Santos nodded. The rules of war had changed when the aliens tried to steal humanity's future. Now it was not enough to win battles. The consortium had to be broken so completely that they would never threaten anyone again. Back in the consortium council chambers, the debate raged on. Some members wanted to negotiate. Others demanded the deployment of their ultimate weapons. But High Counselor Zexthai knew the truth that none of them wanted to face. "It is over," he announced quietly. Chamber fell silent. "We have lost," Zexthai continued. "Not because their technology is better than ours, but because we have forgotten how to fight without our technology. They have taken our greatest strength and made it our greatest weakness." "There must be something we can do," protested Counselor Vrithai. What? Sextai asked. Deploy our planet-killer weapons? They will shoot them down with railguns before they can charge. Send our entire fleet? They will destroy it piece by piece with weapons that cost them almost nothing to build. He gestured to the displays that showed human ships throughout Consortium space. Look at their vessels. Steam-powered, mechanically controlled, built with materials they can mine from any asteroid. We cannot match their production capacity because we need quantum processors to build anything. They need hammers and furnaces. The bitter truth was sinking in. The Consortium had been defeated by an enemy they could not understand. Humans fought wars the same way they did everything else, with determination, creativity, and a refusal to accept that anything was impossible. On Earth, President Martinez stood in the rebuilt White House. Through the windows, she could see the great factories that now covered much of North America. Steam rose from countless smokestacks. The sound of hammers rang day and night. Humanity was building the largest war machine in galactic history, and they were doing it with technology that was older than spaceflight. Madam President said, "Hooray, we have received another surrender offer from the Consortium." Terms? Martinez asked. Complete withdrawal from human space. Recognition of human territorial claims. Reparations for the damage caused by the stasis protocol. Martinez shook her head. Not enough. Ma'am? They tried to steal 500 years from us, Martinez said. They tried to decide humanity's fate without asking our permission. Withdrawal is not enough. I want unconditional surrender. I want the stasis protocol technology destroyed. And I want them to remember forever what happens when someone underestimates the human species. The aide nodded and left to send the reply. Martinez turned back to the window and watched her people work. 3 years ago, they had been forced back to the technology of their ancestors. Now they were the most feared military force in the galaxy. The aliens had made one simple mistake. They had assumed that more advanced meant more powerful. They had never considered that sometimes the simplest solution was the best solution. Week later, High Counselor Zexthai stood alone on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, his fleet was surrendering to human forces. The war was over. The Consortium had lasted 10,000 years. It had taken humanity 6 months to break it. His communication system activated, showing Admiral Chan's face one final time. High Counselor, she said, do you have anything to say before we accept your surrender? Zexthai looked at the human who had defeated his entire civilization. She commanded a fleet of steam-powered ships from a bridge that looked like it belonged in a primitive era. But she had proven that primitives could be more dangerous than gods. How? He asked simply. How did you know this would work? Chun smiled, but there was no cruelty in it. Because you told us it would. You said we would be forced back to the technology we had centuries ago. You never asked what we had accomplished with that technology the first time around. And now? Now, you get to find out what happens when someone tries to cage humanity, Chun replied. We do not wait for permission to survive, High Counselor. We do not ask for permission to grow. And we definitely do not ask for permission to make sure that no one ever threatens our species again. The transmission ended. Zexthai stared at the empty screen and realized that the galaxy had changed forever. The Consortium was finished. The humans had won, but as he watched human ships move through his fleet, he understood something else. This was not just a military victory. It was proof that the most dangerous thing in the universe was not the most advanced technology that it was. The most determined species, and humanity would always be the most determined species in the galaxy. The war was over. The human age had begun.